to another episode of Reboot. I'm your host, Nick Poling. I've turned the tables on our last host, and now I'm hosting this show. So welcome to Reboot, and my special guest I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Blake Clevenger. Welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you, actually. We're going to talk about a subject that is somewhat near and dear to our hearts and our fandom. Let's talk about some Star Trek. How about that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, we are anticipating at the time of this taping, here in February, for the sequel to the reboot of Star Trek that came out in 2009 by J.J. Abrams. In May of 2013 this year, we're expecting to see the sequel, Star Trek Into Darkness. So, what do we know so far about the sequel of Star Trek Into Darkness thus far from the news?
Well, as far as I know, and I'm one that when a new movie's coming out that I really am anticipating and I'm really excited about seeing, I try to avoid the press because it's usually filled with just minor spoilers.
Right.
There's no major things that they have unleashed about the plot or anything like that, but just small little details. But I did get a chance to see the extended trailer in IMAX in front of, I want to say it was The Hobbit.
Yeah, I think before The Hobbit they were showing the first 9 minutes of the movie, right?
And it looks amazing, just especially in IMAX. But we know who the villain is going to be. It's Benjamin.
It's Benito Cumberbatch, I believe is his name. Okay. Yeah, he's
popularized from Sherlock over
right
on the BBC, which is a really good show.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what they do with his character. There's plenty of rumors about whether he is Khan or some relation therein. But as far as, my speculation that won't be Khan, it really won't have much to do with Khan, I don't think. Though some hints in the trailer, it could play around with some of those same themes that we saw in Space Seed and in The Wrath of Khan. I don't think it's going to be a complete rip-off of the second Star Trek movie because we're at a different point in time.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, because and they made that clear in the 2009 movie that kind of throw out all the continuity, you Star Trek fans. This is a different path. Some time travel villain had come into their lives, and so now all their destinies have changed. Even the planet Vulcan was destroyed. So obviously, everything in the future from this point is completely a new storyline, and I think that's kind of their approach to this, wasn't it? It's that this wasn't trying to just kind of like the prequels to Star Wars, trying to fit in gaps of the story that maybe we didn't get before. This is trying to say, no, throw kind of all that out. This is a new storyline we're talking about, and almost new characters in a way. Yeah.
Right, and I wanted to refresh myself on the movie that we'd be talking about, so I watched it again last night, and I've been over the last couple months showing some of the original series to some people that have never seen it before. So I'm having a chance to really see it again in Blu-ray for the first time, and they had to go back and redo a bunch of the CG and the music for the Blu-ray release. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But in the new reboot or the new movie, they do a really good job of trying to come out and be very plain about this event that starts the whole movie off, even before the title scene. Change the timeline altogether, and they really just come right out and bounce back and forth and kind of explain it for the audience, and it's kind of holding a big sign in case you missed it.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing, and this is how we're doing it. We've changed everything, and so so you can throw everything else out.
Yeah, you don't have to be, let's say, like we were fans of the original series or the Next Generation. You don't need to know all of these characters because, in a sense, if you were a new Star Trek watcher, you haven't seen all of those, and you saw this movie all by itself, you'd be all right, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people really, really liked this movie that had never seen it before. They get, they get drug in by a geek or something of that general effect, and they see it for the first time. And they really enjoy the movie, and then they go back and start seeing some of the other TV shows, the other movies, get a Netflix subscription, something of that general idea. So I want to say it's really revitalized the series. There was a lot of hesitation across the internet about J.J. Abrams doing Star Trek. He's been proven on TV shows prior, but there was just a lot of a lot of concern because this is a very well established Enterprise.
Yeah.
You know, the whole thing is just very well established and lots of continuity, technical documentation. You know, they've been through these characters again and again and again. And so how is he going to take this series and go with it? Is it going to be new, old, and what we got was, I was very pleased.
Yeah, I think what I appreciated about what he did with that is that, again, if you weren't a fan of the original series or the Next Generation or any others, you'd be all right to watch this, and then it built that appreciation for the original series. Now we've got a whole new audience of people, another generation of kids who saw this film and got to experience it maybe firsthand, the chemistry between Kirk and Spock, and then they go back to the original series, and you know what? They appreciate it, actually. I think they do appreciate what Gene Roddenberry's vision was for that time period he was in, and then on into the future, thinking that the future's bright, and there's a bright future. There's a progressive chain of events that leads us to defeating hunger and ending racism, things like that, and I think that was present in this film, actually, and so a lot of his vision was part of that. But at the same time, when you're a new director coming into a legacy like Star Trek, you do have to put your own touch on it, don't you? Your own creative kind of touch. And it had that J.J. Abrams style, didn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, they really gave him, you know, some creative license to do what he needed to do to, you know, kind of revitalize the franchise a little bit and take it his own way. One of the things I really appreciated about the new movie is how well it, you know, paid homage to the original series, where everything came from. You know, you see those characters you're used to seeing, in the old series that are still a lot like what they're supposed to be. I mean, they're a little different. I mean, it's new director, new actors, but they really, you know, there's a lot of, you know, whether you want to call it fan service or whatever, that it still has that same feel that made it really good and really popular in the first place. You know, there's that camaraderie between the characters, and they build, you know, the friendships in this movie differently. You didn't see some of this stuff in the original series. You just started out, and these are the characters, and you kind of watched their, you know, friendships be established. But you're seeing it built here, and it's very, you know, reminiscent.
Yeah.
Of the way it was.
So yeah, even being a fan of the series going into this, you're going to see kind of the subtle things that are thrown in there. Kind of how Christopher Pine pays a lot of homage to William Shatner. And then of course we've got Zachary Quinto, who's playing Spock, who just already, you look at him and you're saying, well, that's Leonard Nimoy. You know, that's Spock right there. That's I think even in the casting sessions we saw in the Blu-ray, you know, release of this, they took a look at him and says, well, we've got one down already, so move on to the next one, right? Yeah, and I think Christopher Pine, kind of what was your opinion of him as Kirk, not Shatner, but playing Captain Kirk?
I think he did a really good job, or they scripted or casted it really well. Because I mean, he has that you know, bit of a commanding presence that, I mean, I know what I'm doing, or I'm bold enough to, even if I'm not entirely certain, I'm going to go forward and give it all I've got. And you see him establishing that, you know, in the early scenes where he's, you know, a rebellious child. Yeah. You know, he gets in a bar fight early on in the show, and you see that, you know, that rebellious nature, to not necessarily follow the rules, but to pick, you know, what's right for the situation, which was what you saw a lot of throughout the William Shatner Kirk's. The episodes and the movies, is that sometimes he threw the rule book out and did what needed to be done or was right in the time. Yeah. And especially, you know, in the original series, and like I said, in the reboot, you know, it's new territory. They're out there, you know, the forefront of the Federation, and there's no help. They got to do whatever they need to do or whatever they feel is right in the situation.
Yeah. So when everything seems like that it's against them, they've got to make the decisions to, you know, dive right in, take a chance, take a risk with their lives, the crew, the ship, all this. And I think that came through with that Christopher Pine playing that character that Shatner had so well established. I was kind of reminded of Shatner's Kirk, kind of a James Dean style character, and they really went forward with that in the new movie, with that scene where that car is just heading right towards the cliff when he's supposed to be a young Captain Kirk, and, you know, this kind of he's ready to jump into something that he probably shouldn't. You know, he probably will end up getting hurt or killed, but yet he does it anyways. He gets into a bar fight right away, so he really establishes that kind of throwing the rule book character out. In fact, I think in the original series they must have even made a Federation rule saying, you know what, captains shouldn't be going on the away team anymore because Kirk kept going and he nearly got killed. I don't know how many times. Let's not send the captains on the away missions anymore. They just end up, they need to command the ship, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, you see, one thing I did notice as you watch this, and it is, you just mentioned, Kirk's always on the away team, and they leave the bridge to, like, the third or fourth guy in command all the time. And that happened a lot in this movie. Everyone's just walking off and leaving it to, Chekhov, who you can barely understand in the new movie, which is hilarious and a really good spin on it. But they're always walking off and doing, your most valuable crew members are off on the planet where it's dangerous or off doing, whatever. And sure, I guess they're the most capable.
Yeah.
But, you see in in the Next Generation and some of the further franchise that the captain's not the one that's on the front lines. And that probably shouldn't be, but I can definitely see, that staying the way it was, because that's his nature as well. But you also see Kirk getting beat up all the time in the new movie. I mean, sure, he's good in a fight, but he also gets beat on a lot.
Can take a pounding,
yeah, and just keeps coming, and that's something from the original Kirk. I don't know that I remember him getting beat on as much.
Yeah.
But
he might have got a shirt ripped. That's about.
Yeah.
Oh no, my sleeve, right?
Yes.
But and then there were some of the other homages. We've got a red shirt, of course, in this new movie. It may have been subtle to the people who haven't seen the old ones, but what happens to the red shirts?
They die.
They always die, right? Yeah. And we had the guy in the red outfit who did the space jump. He didn't end up too well.
No, and you saw that time and time again with the episodes.
Yeah.
You saw the red shirt that was still very green, didn't know what he was doing, and wanders into a situation that does something stupid, or doesn't think about what he's doing, or just loses his cool. And you saw that with the guy that was space jumping, as he was just out of it and plummeted to his death.
A little too overconfident.
Yeah, and he's like, and I've got all the charges. Don't put all the important gear on the guy that's most disposable.
Right.
And we've seen him once. He's going to be gone here in a minute.
And you've seen this in other parodies that anyone who ends up, they might have the camera right there on their headshot, and they're like, great, I'm on the away team, and it expands, and what are they wearing? The red shirt. Oh, no!
Yeah.
That's it. I'm done for, right? So let's kind of go back to maybe the original series and stuff. I got some collectibles, of course. I think you've got the new Star Trek, of course, that's out on Blu-ray, and of course it's got some great special features there, so that's one that I highly recommend for everyone. Even if it's just the Blu-ray of the movie by itself, it's really great to see this in that high-definition experience.
Absolutely.
And then, so they started, as a result, re-releasing the original motion picture, so this is the Kirk and Spock original series movies that came out. Of these series, the 1 through 6, what would be your favorite, if you had to pick one?